Sleep in heavenly peace. The words of the song Silent Night ring in my ears as we celebrate Christmas this year. And I wanted to share a message with you that talks about that heavenly peace that the song speaks of. And of course, I'm going to add love. So that's why we're titling this message here today, Heavenly Peace and Love. Because I believe that both peace and love describe very well our spiritual journey, our spiritual path. It calls us to first find that inner peace inside of us, profound sense of inner peace, and of course, then love, to extend from that center of peace, love to our brothers and sisters, to the world, so that we can heal our relationships and, of course, build a better world. Now, this is not a new idea for any of us here today. We talk about peace and love all the time. I'm hoping to offer a new perspective today, a fresh take on this, maybe a little bit more clarity for you. And to do that, I'd like to offer a visual symbol of who each of us are called to be. Okay, a visual symbol. I'm going to call it islands of peace and beacons of love. Islands of peace and beacons of love. So imagine yourself as an island in which peace reigns on that island. And no matter what waves or what winds or what storms blow, that island of peace remains peaceful. And from that center of peace, we can extend beacons of love. This is Juan Enrique Toro greeting you, thanking you for the thumbs up on the channel, thanking you also for pushing the like button, really helps us. And sending those donations is a huge blessing for us as we continue to offer these messages for you online. Thank you very much. So peace. Peace is, of course, an attribute in us. It's not something that we can find in the outside world. In fact, the more we go seeking into the outside world for what is an inner attribute, the more frustrated and the more lost we're going to be. We could say that our mental health depends upon our inner peace, right? If we're stressed, if we're anxious, our mental health really is a reflection of the inner peace that we're going to feel. And the other side of the coin of that is that mental illness, right, as opposed to mental health, mental illness is some form of external searching, some form of looking outside of ourselves for something that is within us. That's how we could define mental illness. And so we connect with that peace. We establish that peace within us by a profound identification of who and what we are. And from that, we can extend love. That is our path. That is our spiritual journey. That is our purpose in life. And so we, from that center of peace and extending love, we need to both understand the theory of how to do it, or what is it that we're trying to do. And of course, we need to put it into practice in our world, in our life. We need to know how to do it, which is what we're going to do today. We're going to use as a model for this of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, crucifixion and resurrection. Because what Jesus was trying to demonstrate through that experience could be summed up as teach only love, for that is what you are. Teach only love, for that is what you are. Now, crucifixion is a symbol for us of how the world attacks us We have small crucifixions, we have large crucifixions, we have crucifixions of all types. So basically, it feels like an attack on our person. And in order for us to feel like we're going through a crucifixion experience, two things are necessary. First of all, the world, our brothers and sisters, the world somehow needs to attack us, needs to do stuff to us, right? We need to be affected by what the world is doing to us. That's number one. Number two, we have to be vulnerable to harm. Right, we have to be vulnerable to what the world is doing to us. In other words, we have to feel hurt. And so, unless these two things exist, then we don't experience being crucified. Right? That's just whether it's small or whether it's large or anything. Now, we can't do anything about number one, what the world is doing to us. Very little we can do about that. But we can do something about number two. Right? And this, I believe, is what Jesus taught and modeled to us when he taught through the crucifixion and the resurrection, teach only love. So we're exploring the theory of this being an island of peace, right? So here's a truth. Assault can only be made on the body. All right, the body is where it's going to feel it. Now, there is no doubt that one body can assault another, can hurt another, can even destroy another. We have no doubt of that. And Jesus demonstrated in the resurrection that he was not destroyed. This is an important thing. Jesus demonstrated through the resurrection that even though they had attacked his body, he was not destroyed. Now, the crucifixion is often seen as a symbol of suffering and sacrifice, but on this channel we teach that the crucifixion and the resurrection are a powerful demonstration of both peace and love. And it all comes down to a basic question for us that each one of us has probably asked ourselves and will continue to ask ourselves for the remainder of our life, and that is, who am I? What is the nature of my being? So many of you might say, well, I'm both human and divine, right? Okay. Some of you might say, I am the Spirit of God expressing in this body. You know, some may say, I have a body, but I am not my body, right? Implying that we're not exactly, that our body just isn't representative of who we are, that we're more than the body, right? Some say, I am the Christ in expression. Genesis says we are created in the image and likeness of God. This is all pointing to one basic idea of the transcendental nature of each of our beings. We are all spiritual beings having a human experience, right? Spiritual beings having a human experience. So, who is the spiritual being? What is the nature of our spiritual self? Well, if we are created in the image and likeness of God, and if we describe God, we need to be describing that spiritual self that we are, and we could say that we are eternal, that we're perfect, that we're whole, that we're complete, that we're changeless. You know, all kinds of words that we can use to describe this spiritual self that we are. And today I'd like to offer a special word, and that is invulnerable, or invulnerable. What that means is that we are perfect and we are invulnerable beings. Invulnerable means that we cannot be harmed or injured in any way. Right? Again, the body is what gets attacked, what gets hurt, what gets destroyed. But we, as spiritual beings, cannot be harmed or injured in any way. So when we identify with our perfect immunity, All right, there's another word, invulnerable immunity. Immunity from attack, immunity from harm, immunity from destruction. What we'll find is peace, knowing that nothing can really touch us. And again, this is what I believe Jesus demonstrated. He was crucified, he was beaten, he was insulted, he was judged wrongly, he was tortured, his body was destroyed. And when we identify with being crucified, when we feel or experience a crucifixion, again, small or large, that tells us that we are identifying with our destructible self, with the body, with the human aspect of who we are. In fact, even if we're just angry, we're declaring our identity with that destructible part of who we are. And so, in truth, again, who are we? I'm a spiritual being. And as a spiritual being, I am not disruptible. I am invulnerable. I am immune. The spiritual self was there before we were born, and it will be there after we die and after even the universe ceases to exist. Here's the Indian saint Anansi Majimai, and she says, "There is beauty in the birds and in the animals. They too eat and drink like us, mate and multiply. But there is a difference. We can realize our true nature. Having been born as human beings, we must not waste this opportunity. At least for a few seconds every day, we must inquire as to who we are. It is no use taking a return ticket over and over again. From birth to death and death to birth is samsara. Samsara is like walking aimlessly in the wilderness, talking about birth and rebirth, reincarnation, right? But really, she concludes, we have no birth and life. We must realize that." Anandi Majimai inviting us to inquire, even for a few moments every day, who are we? And fortifying that identification of the spiritual self, the spiritual being that we are. And she's implying that this is something that has never changed. It was the same before this life, it will remain the same throughout this life, and it will still be the same even when this life is over. And so as a taste of the practice that we're going to offer later on in this message, you might say to yourself, I am perfectly immune. I'm immune to this situation and every situation. You know, we're experiencing a crucifixion, small or large. Identify with the spiritual being. I am perfectly immune. I am immune to this situation and to every situation. And at first, of course, our mind is not going to accept that, so we repeat it over and over again. Kind of like an affirmation. It begins to sink in deeper and deeper. And like I say, we'll discuss practice a little more later on. So once again, the first step in our spiritual path, as we're describing it today, is embodying the message of the crucifixion to cultivate first and foremost inner peace within ourselves. Again, this means recognizing that our true nature is one of peace and love. And when we identify with this inner peace, we become immune to the attacks of the world. So we are all perfect, invulnerable beings. And this means that we cannot be harmed or injured in any way. And when we identify with our perfect immunity, we are at peace because we know that nothing can touch us. You remember the song by MC Hammer, "You Can't Touch This." Well, I believe that's what we're talking about today. Of course, MC Hammer was talking about something else, but still the words are effective. You can't touch this. In other words, the spiritual part of who we are cannot be touched, cannot be changed, cannot be harmed. It is indestructible, invulnerable, immune to attack. You can't touch this. You can't touch this. Identification with the body when we do feel hurt lets us know that we're identified with the body. Now, this does not mean in any way that we're not to feel our feelings. Quite to the contrary. In our practice, we're going to talk about this, but we need to absolutely embrace every single emotion that comes up. We need to welcome it. We need to feel it deeply. We can't let these emotions be denied or detoured away from. They need to be felt completely and allowed expression in whatever way that they are. And once we feel them deeply, we feel the harm, we feel the worry, we feel the fear, when we decide that we're ready, when the light bulb wants to come on inside of us, we can begin to do our spiritual work of finding peace on this troubled island. The island of peace that we are has been attacked in some way. Some storm has brewed and there's some trouble. And we begin to do our spiritual work. Right? So what we do is we find that inner peace. We're going to talk about how to do that a little bit later on, but again, finding that inner peace is essential to moving on. And then from that peace, if we can really embody that sense of nothing really has been done to me, I am free of that harm. Nothing has happened. You can't touch this. Nothing has touched me. Okay? Then we can extend that peace and that love to those that caused us harm and pain. I want to be clear that this does not mean condoning somebody's actions or saying, well, that was great what you did, but rather it's recognizing that we are all children of God, created in the image and likeness. They were all spiritual beings having a human experience, and that each one of us deserves love and compassion. And so when we show our brothers and sisters the way that they have hurt us, if we show them, wow, through our face, through our actions, through our words, through our attitude, simply holding that emotion, oh, I'm so hurt by what you've done. What we're looking to do is produce guilt in them. That's what we want them to do. We want to show them how much they have hurt us. When we project that to them, instead of projecting love, we're projecting, oh my gosh, look at the terrible thing that you have done to me. And the reason we do that is because we want them to be aware of what they've done so that they don't do it again, so that they stop hurting us, right? Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. The people who are attacking us, who are wronging us, many times are in denial about what they're doing. Right? And so repeatedly demonstrating to them how much they have hurt us in subtle or not so subtle ways is only trying to provoke more guilt in them. Again, this does not mean that if you feel injured, to act like you're not. What it does say is, boy, what they said or what they did really hurt me. Really troubled by this. I need to do my work. It's a call to find that island of peace inside of us. It means that the first step, again, is to identify with that perfect immunity that we are and to show our brothers and sisters that we are not injured. That's the path that I'm speaking of today. And that message, if we can convey that message, what that does is it'll heal the relationship. How does this idea of peace and love help to change the world? Well, it doesn't work if we're trying to constantly over and over try to tell somebody else, you really hurt me. Stop doing that. Because what we don't realize that it's producing guilt inside of them. And that guilt is telling them, look at the monster that you are. Now, once you give that message, their whole effort is about denying that they're a monster. Oh, no, I'm not a monster because look what you did to me, and you did it first, and you said it first, and what I was doing is totally justified, so, I didn't do anything to you. Denial. The cycle perpetuates. We're back to where we started. They're feeling guilty, we're feeling hurt. The wheel turns of pain and hurt. So it doesn't help to constantly say, look at what you've done to me. Again, in subtle, passive-aggressive ways, with your face, with your attitude, with your tone of voice, whatever it is. Now, what's the opposite of that? The opposite of that, and what I'm proposing today, is that when you say that no matter what you've done to me, I'm okay. You can't touch this. I'm okay. That sends a message to them that they are lovable, that they're not that monster that they think they are. And that is what will heal the world. That's what changes the world. And that's why Jesus' message inspires us here today. People are usually in denial about what they've done, and that's human nature, and that's okay. But no matter what they seem to show, no matter how deeply they deny it, deep inside of them, they know what they've done. And they know it's wrong. And it's going to produce guilt in one way or another. So when we show them or give them the message, you haven't hurt me, that speaks to a deeper part of them that helps to heal them. It's a message of love, right? It says, in spite of what you believe about yourself, that you're a monster, that you're guilty, deep down you are still innocent. You have never sinned. That's a stunning message, and that is why we celebrate Christmas. Because that is the message that Jesus wanted us to receive, you see. That is the message of the crucifixion, which is summarized once again, teach only love, because that is what you are. It's such an opposite message of how we traditionally see the crucifixion, because traditionally we've seen it as proof of our sinful nature. But Jesus is basically saying to us, I was trying to teach you how innocent you are. Because all the things that were done to me, all the ways in which you attacked me, didn't end up truly hurting me. I lay the body down and I take it up again. Lay the body down, take it up again. You can't touch this. I am an island of peace and a beacon of love. Now just take a moment and see if you can receive that message from Jesus. Right? No matter what we do to Jesus, he's saying, you didn't hurt me. You didn't touch it. Look at me. I'm still whole. I'm still perfect. I'm still eternal. I'm still immune. I'm invulnerable. I'm an island of peace and a beacon of love. So when the song sings, rest in heavenly peace, that's what it's talking about. You can rest in that. So let's talk about the practicality of this. How do we do this? Well, we need to recognize all spiritual work begins where we are. We recognize where we are. We're hurt, we're fearful, we're worried, we're angry, we're resentful. We want revenge. We want the other to suffer. We want them to see how bad they are. We want to hurt them the way they hurt us. Recognize whatever emotion is there. This is the first step of some high consciousness work, friends. Recognize where you are. And if it's a big issue, if it's a big crucifixion, sit down and make a list of those emotions, those thoughts, those beliefs. Let the worst of you come out on that paper. Recognize. And then look at that paper. And allow each thought and each emotion to be just as they are. Right? And then we might do a little investigation. We might take those things deeply. Why am I so troubled by this? You know, things have happened in my life that seem small, but I had a huge reaction to them. Why is that? Something from my childhood? Something that's pointing to a deeper wound, a deeper trauma within myself? Whatever it may be, investigate it. What are the beliefs that those bringing up? Where's the hurt in the body? Where do I feel it? Is my breath shorter? Is my heart ache? Is my stomach rumbling? Is my neck tensing? Investigate that a little bit. And then nurture. Just like a parent talks to a child, say to yourself, that's all right. It's going to be all right. Don't worry. It's going to be fine. You're loved just the way you are. You are just as God created you. And then over time, through your meditation, through your prayer, you introduce this thought, I'm a spiritual being. I'm immune to being hurt. Now, let me just remind you of an experience that you've probably had. Those of you who practice meditation, you may come to meditation at a time in which you're feeling stressed or anxious or worried or fearful or hurt. And if you can really get into the meditative experience, it will oftentimes take you to a place that is expansive, in which you don't feel that hurt, that trauma, that pain, that fear, that worry. That in that meditation you find yourself free. That's your spiritual self. That's your transcendent self, right? That's the self that is immune. And that is the self that you want to identify with. So you breathe into that. You can repeat this idea, I'm immune. I'm not hurt by this situation. I am free. Again, repetition. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. With every repetition, you may accept it a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, until finally you become an island of peace. Now notice we haven't said anything about love yet. We need to first be in that place of peace, because otherwise we're going to be throwing that hurt to another, which will perpetuate the cycle like we've said. Once we find that peace, in mind or through words or actions, we can say to the other, you have not hurt me. See me, I am whole. I am perfect. I am at peace. And as you communicate that to the other, extending love in that way, at some level, they're going to connect to that. There's going to be a joining. In that moment, they have healed, you have healed, and a miracle has happened. You've become an island of peace and a beacon of love. And you can sleep in heavenly peace. Merry Christmas. Juan Enrique Toro greeting you, thanking you for tuning in. Thanks for the thumbs up, subscriptions, donations. Thank you very much. From my heart to yours, may the light that is born in Christmas be born in you today. And please remember that life is consciousness, and consciousness is life.